Hey guys, this is Ginger DeClue, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing my journey with Epstein Barr. This is going to be Epstein Barr, Healing Epstein Barr episode 1. And I'm going to start doing these videos on healing my Epstein Barr and what I'm going through, what I've gone through and what I'm going through in using the medical medium to lower my viral load and increase my health and vitality. So stick around for a long story on a lot of illness. But yeah, here we go. I have had a hell of a ride as far as it goes with being ill. And I just am putting this out there because I think a lot of people are struggling right now with chronic illness, particularly women, and this knowledge that I found from the medical medium has really opened my eyes to a lot. And you know, we're not crazy. People with chronic illness are not crazy. There's a lot of things going on between the heavy metals that we are constantly ingesting, the processed food that we constantly are exposed to. It's so much cheaper and easier to get a hold of, you know, crappy McDonald's versus like fresh fruits and vegetables. From the time I was born, I was a really cute baby. I had, my parents are interracial, so my dad is white, my mom is black. And I think that is important for the story because whenever I was sick, I feel like she wasn't listened to as well because she was a minority, and there was kind of like this, you know, little bit of hatred or whatever you want to call it, or misunderstanding about the fact that my dad was white. And it's all good. Like, I am all about unity. We constantly try to divide ourselves and each other by race, by gender, by religion, so I just think that's all nonsense. But so I was constantly ill as a child. Like as a baby, I'd have these horrific ear infections and I would scream, and I would take me to the ER and take me to the doctor, and they'd give me like all these antibiotics. So like I can remember being on antibiotics as a very young child. And I can remember the pain of the ear infections, maybe not when I was 6 months old, but I can remember having these chronic ear infections. And then as I got to be a little bit older, I was really adorable, and that's actually, I was a child actor, and my mom would take me to New York, and I would, you know, I did a lot of work. I did a ton of commercials, and I started to feel joint pain at that age. Like, I'm talking 5 years old. And again, the ear infections were like a constant problem, and I never wanted to go to school. I just I felt fatigued. And if you look at the medical medium books, there's different stages of the the Epstein Barr virus, and I believe that was the stage 1 of my getting the virus. I don't know how I got it, possibly through my parents, because my father has some health problems and it is inherited, and plus you inherit the heavy metals. So that was like probably my phase 1, and throughout all of my grade school years I was sick. Like, I wish I had my report cards. I think I might have them, but I'd miss like 70 days of school, and my mom would just be begging the doctor for a doctor's note because you're not allowed to miss that much school, but I would like just miss school. It was crazy. And here's another big important piece from the medical medium. I felt crazy at that age. Like at that age when I would get sick and it would be like I'd have fevers and I'd have ear infection, and then the fever and stuff would go away, but for weeks after I'd be exhausted. Like, couldn't get out of bed, could barely watch TV. Like, it was just a nightmare as a child to go through that. And then you know, and life was kind of stressful. I had gone through some things, so you start thinking it's your fault. I really believed that I was like, because I was stressed, because I felt like I missed school, that I was making myself feel sicker. It's really unfortunate that that's what they kind of train us to think. So then I got my period when I was 11, and that was really just my hormones shifted. And let me also add, I ate the SAD diet, the standard American diet. I literally ate tons of milk. Like, my favorite go-to snack was milk and peanut butter. Like a scoop of peanut butter and a glass of milk, and I was like totally set up. So yeah, that was like my snack. We ate meat practically all day between bacon and eggs. You know, I had fruit and bananas and apples and stuff, but it was like a side, you know, it wasn't the main part of it. My mom didn't know any better, and she thought that if it was in a box, it meant it was good for you. Like, it was like Stouffer's or like these brand names because she grew up poor. So the fact that she could give us like a brand name was like a big deal for her, but unfortunately that didn't have any nutrients in it. So we were raised on a lot of stuff like that, like rice and roni with chicken that she'd make and like no organic. And I remember really well buying those big packs of meat, like they were like cheap ground beef, and I can remember like we ate that so much. We made tacos like 3 times a week. I love tacos. And then I can remember, like, this is a little bit after, but they came out and said it was pink slime. Like all that cheap meat that they had, like those big packs of meat wasn't even meat, it was just pink slime. So yeah, that was like what we ate, and nothing was organic. And so I got my period at 11, and it was like the worst thing ever. Like every month was like murder, like hell on earth. I would be in the nurse's office just like with cramps, like like my whole body hurt. It was just ridiculous. And again, everyone looked at me like, she's just annoying, she's just complaining, she's crazy. Crazy didn't happen at that age. It was more like she's just lazy and whiny and just wants everybody to like cater to her. Meanwhile, I really am a achiever. I'm a Taurus, okay? So like that's all just false, and I never ever wanted to feel like outside of my classmates, and it was just a really tough childhood to go through all this kind of constant sickness. So then I remember I kind of went through a little bit of a remission from like 6th grade, like 12 until about 14. That was like 15. I had this like a few years that were okay because I started playing sports, and I think the sweating helped, and just, you know, I was so into it. I just pushed through anytime I felt weakness or any, you know, problems with my joints. I just kind of pushed through. And then I can remember in 8th grade, my girlfriend, I was 13, she invited me on this great trip with her family, and my parents had lost their money, so I hadn't been on vacation in like, so at this time, 13, I hadn't been on vacation probably in like 5 years. So anywhere, like we just were home. So we were going to Myrtle Beach, and I was like, hell yeah, we're going to Myrtle Beach. I'm so excited. I didn't even do my track, just like regional track race. Like I had gotten like qualified to do that, and I was like, nah dude, I'm going to this vacation. And I had so much fun, but like we ate a lot of pizza and all takeout. I mean, it was all takeout, and that's what you do on vacation. And by like the 4th day of vacation, like I hadn't pooped. So like here's a big symptom that started for me about 13 was like the constipation. Okay, so it's like 4 days I haven't pooped, 5 days, right? I like the day 4 into 5, like that night, I was like, I had a stomach ache. We had pizza that night, and I had to get a picture. I went into my photo albums. Buddy's here helping me edit. But this is the only picture I have from that vacation. My only vacation, practically my entire childhood. Well, my whole teenage years anyways. It's just like, not a stomach ache, like a gut ache. Like my gut actually hurt. Like it was like just like it felt like something was grinding down my colon. Like it was so painful. And I was like, didn't know what to do. I'm all alone. We didn't have cell phones really, like to call your parents. Like you had to call, you had like the number written down, and they'd go, hey, Ginger's not feeling good, whatever. So I had to wake up my friend and her parents at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was the right side of my body where your appendix is. So they're like rushing me to the ER, getting me done with this, like an x-ray and all this. And guess what? I was freaking constipated so bad that my colon was like a blockage. There was actually a blockage that formed. God, I was so embarrassed. Like you have no idea how embarrassing that seems. And my friend, it was just it's just embarrassing story, but that was a huge thing for me, was that the constipation really started to get bad at that point. Like oh god, and then they gave me this magnesium sulfate, like it tastes kind of like Sprite, but like nasty Sprite, like medicine Sprite, and like 12 hours later I took a giant poop. But not to be graphic, but like, you know, it was just, that was so horrible. But my gut at that point was telling me like, I'm not like eliminating, I'm not processing your stuff. So like, but I didn't know this. I just had no knowledge of that. So, you know, I started eating a lot more fiber and Miralax. That was like that was what was the solution. Eat Miralax. Not like maybe eat some more fruit and cut out some meat. Like never heard anything like that. Never heard about gluten, nothing. Like this is the Stone Age where like I thought the calories from a hot dog was the same as the calories from ice cream, was the same as calories from strawberries, was the same as calories from chicken, when it's like no, calories don't even really exist. It's all about the nutrients. But I had, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. That's like the saying, and that was where I was, and I've been that way that's been just the way it is in life, right guys? So anyways, I went to high school, had a great freshman year pretty much, did all kinds of sports, had great grades, like I pushed myself really hard, and then sophomore year comes. And my life had gotten more stressful at home. My parents were going through a lot of financial struggles, and I was like stressing about that, I'll be honest. But I remember it was like maybe the middle of October. I remember feeling like this. I was sitting at math class in 10th grade, and so I'm 15, and I could not like focus on the board. I couldn't even keep my eyes open, and I was just like, something's not right. I didn't have a fever, didn't have anything like that, and I remember going to my mom like a week later and saying like, Mommy, I can't go to school. Like I can't see straight. Like I'm so exhausted. I'm just so tired, Mom. I like don't know what to do. And I think this was now probably like the start of stage, like going from 2 to 3 right here. It was like the stage 2 and 3 of probably exactly stage 2 of the Epstein Barr that the medical medium discusses. So I remember that year, so sophomore year, I got taken, my mom took me out of school because she always believed me. Even if they couldn't prove what was wrong with me, she always was like, I know that you're not lying, because I'm just not a lazy person. And I've slept from like October, like Halloween, I went out on Halloween and I was just trying to be with my friends and I just felt horrible. And from October until like March of that year, I completely slept. Like I literally didn't do anything but sleep. And here's the great thing. My dad, every morning, I'd wake up at 7, take my sister to school with my mom to the school bus. And then I'd come home, my dad would make me 3 eggs or 2 or 3 eggs with bacon on white bread. So if you read the medical medium, eggs is like the no. Eggs feeds these problems that I was dealing with. Eggs makes things worse. Gluten makes this worse. Pork makes things worse. So I was just like unknowingly ingesting and being fed like this horrible food that does not support healing, okay? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with if you decide to eat meat, whatever, that's fine. I've eat meat my entire life. But when you're dealing with Epstein Barr, eggs feed pathogens, okay? And so, anyway, so I was really ill, and I slowly, like, I don't know, I just would get better, like, after months of resting and sleeping. So he'd make me that egg sandwich, I'd come home, eat the egg sandwich, and I'd go back to sleep until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was just, that was my cycle. I just slept. And then I remember watching like Grey's Anatomy on Thursday night. So I would sleep all day, watch that, and go back to bed. Like it was just a really hard time. And then we were moving at the same time. Like at the end of that year, we were going to be moving. And I was just like, I'm going to get back to normal. I'm going to get my strength back. Like, you know, we're going to be good. And I'm going to a new school. It's going to be awesome. Like junior year, baby. Like I just turned 16. So we moved to a new school. And I met on the first day, I met my baby daddy, who, not with him anymore, but I have a beautiful 5-year-old son with him. I met him on the first day of junior year. And I was playing on the volleyball team. Like I was in AP courses. Like I was killing it. 2009, okay? Guess what comes out 2009? Swine flu. So yeah, I ended up doing about 5 weeks of school and junior year, and I got the swine flu, which totally knocked me out. Like I'm talking, this is October 2009. I'm talking 20 hours, 23 hours of sleeping, like not even eating, just sick as hell. And I finally, like, my boyfriend at the time, like, it's a long story, but we were living together already after like just this short time. You know, his family was like, what the hell's wrong with her? And I started to feel like a little better, and they were like, we're going on a trip, like we're going to take a road trip to the shore. Now we lived outside of Philly, so like the shore is about an hour or so away. So we went on the shore trip, and like 30 days after, I had been like sleeping all day, and I woke up with the same but way more intense pain in the lower right side of my abdomen. So we ended up leaving the shore to go to the hospital, okay? And that this time they're like, no, your appendix is like really swollen, you have a fever, and like we're gonna take your appendix out. So yeah, so now 16, I have this open surgery where they didn't just take out my appendix, but they like opened me up. I have a scar about this big on my abdomen, and they went in there and they like just dug through and looked at all my lymph nodes. And then after the surgery they said, you know, your lymph nodes were like really swollen, and it's just a sign of infection and this and that. And looking now, it's like, yeah, that's a sign of a lot of things. There's a lot of inflammation in my body. Again, never ever was I given any dietary advice, nothing, okay? It was just wild. And I'm 5'10", and I was relatively thin at this time, like very thin. I was probably like 117 pounds after this ordeal. So I go back to school after surgery and after being sick, and I ended up having a nervous breakdown because I was not able to walk. I went back to school with a wheelchair because it was like the pain of walking when you have surgery in your abdomen. If you've had surgery in your abdomen, you know. But this was especially difficult because there was inflammation from just my body was under attack from the virus, and so it was extra painful. And my nervous system was fried, so everything was just like, whoo, it was just a lot of spiciness in my body. So, and then on top of that, I'm trying to get straight A's and do AP courses. And yeah, so junior year, had a nervous breakdown, back online doing online school, okay? And got through that, ended up doing actually pretty well. I had a 5.4 GPA, which really could you have more than a 4.0, because my classes were weighted, people. It's called AP. Not saying I'm really that smart, I was just good at school. Anyways, so I did online school and I had tutors come for the end of junior year, and my high school agreed that I could go to community college for my senior year because I was like I was like such a messed up kid. And they said, well, you know, it's not easier, but you have more control of your schedule and X, Y, and Z. So I did it. I went and did my freshman year of college as a senior. So I was so proud of myself, and I was working, and I like recovered like that after that real bad illness in the fall and the winter of 2009. I recovered all spring of 2010. And by the next fall, I had really recovered my body. And of course, I'm like going back to full speed ahead. So I went back, you know, did pretty well. And I had like 3 jobs. Literally, I found a job cleaning online, and I and I was a waitress and a hostess. Like, I did it all, you know. I just wanted to hustle. And so I did that. I wasn't even 18, and I graduated from high school. I was so proud of myself. Not that that's rare, but I was proud. And I had done college, like 1 year of college by the time I was not even 18 years old. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this next year. I'm going to just save some money, relax. Like, I've been through a lot. So yeah, I was like, I'll just work. So I was working my butt off, but like living my life, enjoying it. Bought myself a little car. And now we're moving up to November 2011. So November 2011, this is when the Epstein Barr went to like stage 4, like real quick. So I working my butt off. I like money, okay, and I was like, as many shifts as you can give me, like give me the shifts. So I was working like 70 hours a week, and I remember just very specific day. It was the 26th of November 2011, or the 23rd or the 26th. and I was working this big party, and it was great money. I was so excited because it's like easy money because it's a guaranteed tip. So I was pumped, and then all of a sudden I remember they were cleaning the table, and I felt like I was doing all the work too. Like my guy that I was working with was like half-assing it because he knew I would just work hard for the both of us. And I was like, all of a sudden, just the wave of nausea that like billowed over my body was so intense, and I started throwing up. And my boyfriend, who we were still going out from meeting in junior year, had to drive me home. I was projectile vomiting, like shooting out like The Exorcist vomit. Okay, it was horrible. Okay, and you know, it was weird because that was the first thing, was just violent vomiting, violent stomach problems, and of course a fever. And then I woke up the next day and the vomiting and stuff stopped. That was like the one day thing. The first day I was vomiting, and then it went into, again, the constant sleep, where I was sleeping, and I was like, oh, I had the flu. So at first it's like, you have the flu, and no, I did not have the flu. Okay, it was like way intense. So I was 3 weeks of this like nonstop sleeping, couldn't get out of bed. Things are starting to get a little stressful because I have a rent to pay, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I go to the hospital, to the pediatric hospital, because I was still a child, and they're like, you have mono so bad, Epstein Barr Virus. So I was diagnosed, Epstein Barr Virus so bad, your lymphocytes are like 2,000 lymphocytes in your blood. I don't know exactly what that means, but it was like, you're really sick. So go back home, rest, you have this bad, it's the kissing disease, you know. So I was like, oh, okay, well I know that's what's wrong with me. It's like kind of a relief when you know what you're diagnosed with. It's almost like I need that. I was trained to need a diagnosis. So I go home, and fast forward again to January. I'm not responsive. My boyfriend cannot wake me up. He calls an ambulance. I get taken to the hospital. So we're in serious stage 4 of the Epstein Barr, where it's like causing neurological problems, because I woke up in the hospital and I could not walk, couldn't move, couldn't control my bowels. My pupils were like dilated, would not stop dilating, and it was really horrible. And they really didn't know what was wrong with me. The mono, they said, was not the problem at that point, but if you read medical medium books, that was exactly the problem. Okay, it was in my liver. It was just going all over my body, wreaking havoc. My nervous system was shot from the virus, from the viral load, and then they were just pumping me with all this stuff, steroids and blood thinners, and just like like horrible stuff, painkillers and muscle relaxers. And after a while, I was at Moss Rehab, which is like one of the best rehab centers in the country. I think it might be #1. They actually diagnosed me with the brain swelling. I had an MRI and I had a spinal tap, which, unless you really need it, I don't suggest ever having to get a spinal tap. It was horrible. It took 5 attempts. And that's what they said. You have encephalitis. So my brain had swelled. My brain was swollen. And also I had pericarditis, which is the lining of my heart was swollen. And I had like pneumonia problems, and I didn't even mention that in my other illnesses that would kind of come and go. Like I get pneumonia throughout my childhood. Anyways, so it was horrible, and I had to learn to walk again, and it was just really like a terrible time, and no one could tell me what caused it. Like that was when they first kind of said you have autoimmune. Like that was the first time I heard that term. Like, we think you have an autoimmune disease and we're going to do genetic tests. Well, my insurance wouldn't cover the genetic test because it wouldn't, for whatever reason. They were like $5,000 tests. I was like, well, that's not happening. I'm broke, as a joke. And I was just like, at my apartment, just like my boyfriend left, and it was just really horrible. So I did eventually, like, I was going to rehab 3 times a week, and like I was so sick I couldn't even eat anything. And I think the medical medium doesn't talk so much about fasting, but I actually was fasting because I had a lot of improvement when I stopped eating. And I don't encourage anyone to stop eating, but everything made me feel ill. Nothing, my gassing and the constipation, like, you want to talk about, like, constipation isn't even the word for what I was going through, because I had no bowel control, and it was like, it was just awful, and discomfort, and just that all those nerves down there didn't want to work right for me. So fast forward a little bit, I regained my ability to walk, and I was doing semi-good, and I ended up staying with a girlfriend who inspired me to try to go back to college because I was a good student. I had like great grades, and so I applied to NYU to go to film school because like acting is life, okay? And ended up hooking back up with my ex, and I got pregnant. So did not end up going to film school at NYU. I had my son, and yeah, I went through even more illness. Like, this is a long ass video because there's so much that I went through, and I'm trying to explain this to you because I want everyone else there to know that there's a lot of crazy symptoms that you're going through, and it doesn't mean you're crazy. Like, I wish somebody had made a video and I could have gone on and said brain swelling, this light sensitivity, joint pain, fatigue, because I had no idea what was going on with me. And no one, you know, you're not alone, okay? If you're dealing with chronic illness, you're not alone. So I'm trying to go a little faster. When I was pregnant, I ended up in the hospital twice for infections, which were related again to having like a sterilized gut from all of the freaking antibiotics I had been on. And then I took probiotics, and it like immediately fixed my gut. Not like totally fixed my constipation, but it really helped to reduce just the nightmare that is constipation. And I had a really healthy delivery because he was naturally born, and I had a midwife, and she like massaged me, and I didn't tear. It was great. So let's see. So anyways, that was that part of the illness. And kind of like when I had him, I was still kind of sickly, but I gained like a ton of weight when I had him. Sorry guys, I'm making dinner. And I had to grab another date because I've been eating so much of those. So where was I? Had my son, breastfed, was hugely overweight, had no energy, but I was just sitting there breastfeeding all day anyways. 2016, so this is like a little bit after my son was born. He was like about 2. I had like this intense spiritual awakening, and I started going back to plant-based, and a lot of things started happening for me in the best sort of way. I met my husband that year, but I was doing okay. I was never like thriving. I never had the great energy. And then we got married, and my husband just like treats me like a princess, not gonna lie. And you know, I didn't really have to work. Like, I was working towards goals that are bigger. So for instance, like I started a YouTube channel, like he helped me start that after we got married, but it wasn't really like my full passion. I really want to be an actress. Like, to be in movies and television, that's like the goal for me. So, you know, I got back into acting, and he supported that. And I did really well. And this is like through 2017. I started back fully into acting 2017. And we literally moved out to California to 2019, like to move to LA because this is where the movies are made. So in that time though, like, I had so much up and down. First of all, my weight, like from 2016 to 2019 to now, I should say, from 2016 to now, my weight was like this. Like, I'm 5'10", I can go to 125, I can go to 165, like no problem. And then going back into my career, which I loved, like my anxiety became like, started to creep. And I had like a big flare of my autoimmune disease, where my whole face like opened up, which I'll put the pictures up. Literally I had sores in my face. Now I have a hole in my face. Wow. Traumatic. Holding in the tears. And that was like right before we moved to California too. So I ended up on steroids like right before we moved out to LA. So on prednisone, and like, I just think that really affected me negatively, the prednisone, because, and then all the stress of moving, and 2019 was like a year of fire for me. Like, I just feel like I was going through the fires, like trying to establish myself in LA. Again, my weight was like up and down, 165, 135, 140, like just 150. It was just crazy. And this 2020, baby, we're in lockdown, but 2020 was about to be the year. And so I like dove really deep into my classes that I take out here and just like networking, and February hit and I was just like, I had even lost weight in the end of 2019 by fasting. I lost like 20 pounds fasting, and then February I was working my ass off all January, like going to class auditions and everything. And it was just like the weight started to do this again. The energy was going like this. The anxiety was going like this, crazy, crazy, crazy through the roof. And I said, something needs to change. Like, something's not right. I'm sick. I was sweating. And biggest thing of all, I started, my thyroid nodules, which I forgot to mention, they started to get really big. And you can see, like, my neck looks kind of like puffed up. And if you look at my last video, like, my face is going down, but my face has been puffed because of all the inflammation. But yeah, so the thyroid nodules, and then it was like, you need to do something. Like, all February was just like a nightmare. I was working so hard, but I did not feel well. And first week of March, this influencer, Shameen Miller, who I've learned so much from her, she posted that she was doing celery juice. So March 8th, I started on my journey with the medical media. March 8th, 2020. It is now today is April 20th, and this is the video, my video of, how many weeks is that? Let's look. That is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 5 weeks. So in 5 weeks of just doing celery, cutting back on fat, and cutting and increasing fruit, I am doing phenomenally better, okay? And that's what this series is going to be about. Now that you know what I've been through with my health, and you're free to ask questions, and I'm sure I didn't forget, but left out some pieces because it's like such an extensive freaking illness list. But that's just the truth of what I've been through. And then when you read the medical medium and you realize that these things are caused by viruses and you got to kill those viruses. I'm definitely going to be making a video on the diet I've been following, the celery juice, the supplements that I've been taking to kill the virus down. And yeah, so I hope this video was maybe eye-opening to you of the symptoms you're dealing with. Other symptoms I've dealt with, I have keratosis on my arms, which is like crusty skin, that's itchy. I've dealt with cystic acne, which is also from the staph that goes along usually with the staph that goes along with the Epstein Barr in your body, in your liver. Like I said, the thyroid nodules, heavy periods, irregular periods, and yeah, I'm going to get into more details about all this stuff, but I just wanted you to understand where I'm coming from in my health and why I'm choosing to do this, because I think it's important that everyone does what's best for their body. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not any kind of health professional, but I know what works for me and I know when I feel my best. So I hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next video.